Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. Taoiseach, the office of the Minister for Justice is probably the most sensitive office in government. And this sensitivity arises from the roles and relationships that he or she must have with some of the most important institutions of state. The Minister for Justice has responsibility for An Garda Síochána, to provide for the judiciary, and receives confidential and private information, often pertaining to the security of the state. Now, Taoiseach, on the 15th of May last, Minister Shatter received a report from the Garda Commissioner in relation to the penalty points investigation and report, and that concluded that there was no evidence found to suggest any criminality in the cancellation of fixed charge notices. Minister Shatter then appeared on RTE's primetime on May 16th, and even though he was armed with the facts of the report, he decided to divulge private information about Deputy Wallace that was given to him by the Garda Commissioner. He clearly crossed the line, and he actually showed contempt for the democratic norms for his own political, personal gain. Everyone but Fine Gael believes that this was inappropriate use of private information. Now, Taoiseach, when you are replying, I'd like you to tell us what your response is to the inappropriate use by Minister Shatter of this private information. Now, on Thursday last, on May 23rd, after questions were raised in this House, Minister Shatter was forced to make a statement about when he was stopped on Pembroke Street at a routine checkpoint. He said that he was unable to fully blow the breathalyser due to asthma, and that he was also returning from Dáil Éireann. Now, Taoiseach, amazingly, over the weekend, when you were speaking on this matter, you said that he twice failed to fill the breathalyser and that you expressed confidence in him. You. And the questions I have from you, Taoiseach, are this. Have you since spoken to the Minister? And given today's report in the Irish Independent newspaper, which I'm sure you're aware of, and given Minister Shatter's statement this morning, released at 6:31 a.m, are you concerned that a report in relation to Deputy Wallace could find its way up the Garda chain of command to the Minister and into a television studio and broadcast nationally, and yet the report into Pembroke Street wasn't reported at all, apparently?
Well, Minister Shatter has apologised for the comment that he made on the national television programme in respect of Deputy Wallace. Minister Shatter has already made a statement to the Dáil on this, and he has answered questions about it. Minister Shatter will confirm this evening again in respect of a motion of no confidence that as a person who suffers from an asthmatic condition, that he made 2 attempts to blow into the mandatory breath testing facility at the mandatory checkpoint. And Minister Shatter has the full confidence of the government in respect of the reforming strategy that he's set out for the Department of Justice and the Department of Defence, for the legal profession, and he will answer up this evening in that regard. I have absolute confidence in the Minister to do his job. As I said, he's apologised for the comment. He's clarified that the original charge of this happening between the election and the appointment of a government was not in fact so, and has clarified the matter insofar as the mandatory checkpoint was concerned. And as he released his statement this morning, he did verify, and as has been confirmed by the Garda Commissioner's office to the Secretary-General in the Department of Justice and Equality, that inquiries were made by Garda management as to whether a report existed or not, that the local involvement in the local search of the situation in the computer system failed to locate any such report. Obviously, speculation and allegations can appear in newspapers, but Minister Shatter has been very clear about this and very upfront about it. And insofar as the reform programme that is set out in his work as Minister for Justice, Equality and Defence, he has the full support of the government, and will be here this evening to answer any further questions that people have.
Deputy Collins, 1 minute.
Taoiseach, First of all, you say that the Minister apologised. That's not what I asked you in relation to. I asked you for a response in relation to the fact that he used private and confidential information for his own political advantage, which he was privy to. And he was privy to by virtue of the fact that he was briefed by the Garda Commissioner. You haven't addressed that. And secondly, in relation to that, what does that say for the working relationship now between the Garda Commissioner and the Minister for Justice of the day? Can the Garda Commissioner feel confident and secure that he can brief the Minister in relation to confidential matters? I think clearly not, and I think that relationship has been breached, and you clearly haven't addressed that. Now, all this really erodes public confidence in the whole process. And I want to ask you, what message do you think it sends out when you have a Minister for Justice in waiting being stopped at a mandatory checkpoint by An Garda Síochána, citing that he is travelling home from Dáil Éireann, with all the implications that goes with that, the constitutional privilege that can give to an individual? Do you think that's appropriate? Because you're not addressing it, Taoiseach. You're talking about an apology. You're talking about having confidence. You're talking about the Minister being reforming. These aren't the questions. And we can argue about reform tonight. He's no more reforming than any other Minister for Justice of the day. But deal with the issue. It's the issue of his judgement. And you haven't commented publicly in relation to that. In fact, you commented twice from afar. You commented from Boston and you commented at the weekend without having spoken to the Minister, in your own words. And I don't think that's good enough. I think, at the very least, the people are entitled to hear from you. Do you think the use of the private and privileged confidential information was appropriate?
Thank you, Deputy.
That's a straightforward question. Do you think it was appropriate?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Of course, I've spoken to the Minister for Justice, and the Minister has clarified exactly what the situation was insofar as the mandatory checkpoint was concerned, including the time that actually occurred. I made the point in answer to a question from your leader last week that the Minister's comment was in an attempt to undermine the argument that had been made by Deputy Wallace as against trying to undermine Deputy Wallace himself. The Minister for Justice responded to that in the House last week on the statements and questions and answers and apologised for it. Now, the Minister has set out actually probably the most extensive change programme for the Department of Justice, the Department of Defence and the legal system, certainly over the last 100 years. And when you consider that his whole life has been involved here in dealing with the rights of people, particularly the rights of families and the rights of children, it speaks for itself in respect of his judgment. He was the Minister who has made arrangements for additional prison spaces, for the continued reductions in payroll and operating costs across prisons. He's the person who brought forward the immigrant investor and start-up entrepreneur programs, the new visa waiver programs, the clearing of the backlog of applications for citizenships, the new formal ceremonies for people who become naturalised citizens of this country, instead of having them attend in the middle of court cases, to be able to have their own formal ceremony and swearing in respect of our flag and our national anthem and our constitution. He streamlined the immigration procedures. He is the person who's brought forward the criminal justice withholding of information on offences against children and vulnerable adults in 2012, the National Vetting Bureau, the Criminal Law Defence and Dwelling Act of 2011, to make clear that a person may use reasonable force to defend themselves in their home, the Criminal Justice Act of 2011 to provide improved powers for the Gardaí in combating white-collar crime, the Criminal Justice Search Warrants Act of 2012, which provides for the issue of search warrants by Gardaí in exceptional circumstances of urgency, the Criminal Justice Bill of 2013, which will provide a power to temporarily close down on mobile phone transmissions where there's a serious terrorist bomb threat. Yes, you may laugh about it, Deputy Dooley, but it's no laughing matter when it happens, believe you me. No laughing matter at all, Deputy Dooley. He's the person who brought forward the 29th Amendment of the Constitution, dealing with judges' remuneration, the Legal Services Regulation Bill of 2012, the Courts Bill of 2013, which will enhance the role of the District and the Circuit Court and provide for the appropriate reporting of family law cases, the Criminal Justice Spent Convictions Bill, which facilitates the rehabilitation of once-off offenders. He is the Minister who has brought forward the opportunity for the people to vote on the setting up of a Court of Civil Appeal, and next year, please God, for the people to have the opportunity to set up a whole new system of family courts. These innovative and far-reaching proposals and changes by the Minister for Justice, if adopted by the House and the people, will bring our legal system, our justice system, and all connected with that into the 21st century, where many ministers for many years failed to act in this area, Deputy.